For those of you who don't know me, I'm James HOSEA. I live here in Kearney, and here's a little history about me. I'm a local heating and air conditioning contractor that over the years I've worked for the mines, I've worked for our local private sector businesses, Kearney Automotive, Phelps Ford. If you notice, these businesses have now become a part of our past. As an employee and later as a business owner and an employer, I've witnessed the struggles and unique challenges that small businesses in a small town face. The issues of economy, taxes, utilities, license fees, and the list goes on and on. As a pastor of a local church, I've witnessed the economic hardship of our senior citizens and our retirees, who comprise a large portion of our population. These are the citizens that feel the impacts of every small utility increase, every tax hike. I'm not naive to the challenges that Kearney faces. Finding a balance between economic resources and the ever-increasing operational costs, as well as the ever-increasing need to invest in our children and our young adults and the family structure. These are the future and the longevity of Kearney. I've lived in the Kearney area most of my life. I love Kearney and I live here. I've raised my family here by choice because Kearney is really a great place to live. Recent changes in city management have been for the good and been in our favor. In this new management, we've lost a manager who for 14 years was here, lived outside of town, never moved his family here, came in as a visitor basically drawing a paycheck, never really had a vested interest in our town. And now we're in a position where we have a new manager. She's Anna Flores. She lives right here in town. She's local. She's raised her children here. She chooses to live in Kearney by choice. She's not here by force. She's not here for the paycheck, but she's excellent in what she does. Her education, her background, her management skills are proven. She's already gotten us another fire truck. She's gotten APS to donate us utility trucks. She's gotten us some new police cars already. In just a short time, she's accomplished a lot. And I believe that with a council that could come alongside of her and a government structure that would come alongside instead of being the weak structured government that we've been, but coming alongside and becoming accountable to the people, we could do a lot in this town. I believe we can change things, we can move things forward, we can see a lot of improvement if we can learn to work together as a team, a management team between the council and management. In the past, the council set and we're the approval center for management. Management comes up with a plan, management comes up with our needs, management presents them, and the council, we take and we'll vote. We say yes, we say no, we say the money can go here, it don't go there. We weigh it out. But together we need to come together and start weighing out a plan for this city that's bigger than a financial plan, a plan for fixing things, getting things done, bringing it around, a plan of accountability. I believe the council and the mayor should be more accountable to the public. There should be more transparency, more answers, more questions that are answered. When the public has a question, a lot of the time it never really gets answered. They get kind of a, we'll check on it, or will this, will that, and it never gets back. Records requests get tossed in. Some records requests have been answered. A lot have never been answered. A lot of things seem to be under the deal, and it's not, I don't believe it was ever intentional by our council, but it's our structure of government as it was. There's not as much involvement as there needs to be. I feel that with a strong leadership team in there, we could take and bring this around where we come together on one page and come together to move in a direction. As a mayor, I believe it would be my duty to impart vision to the council and to the management, where we could sit down and work together and find solutions. Not just sit there and keep putting band-aids on our problems. I believe we need to have transparency as a part of our accountability to the public. We need to have transparency with the records. When a citizen files an information request under the Freedom of Information Act, under Arizona's sunshine laws, we're required to give that information. I believe a prompt response is due. I believe an open door policy, come in, sit down, we'll show you the record. that you're asking for, copies provided, whatever's needed to fulfill the requirements of the law. I know there's some things that are excluded, and you'll have to understand that everything you ask for may not be available because of legal exclusions or exceptions. But Arizona law does allow for the disclosure of disciplinary records of officers, of our police officers and that. When there's been a disciplinary action, they're saying, while it's active, it's excluded, but once it's concluded, you have a right to know, you have a right to view and see the statements the officer made in their own defense. All of these things, in the past, these things have been hidden, they've been pushed down, and they haven't been made available when you ask. But I believe as a mayor that it's our responsibility as a mayor and the council to sit down with the citizen and say, yes, here's the record. And I believe that if we can get this, we could regain the trust of the citizens. I feel that in talking with a lot of you, I feel that there's a large distrust between there's a big gap between the citizens in our community and our council and our local government. People say, well, it doesn't do any good to say anything. It doesn't do any good. And meeting attendance will prove that. I encourage you to come to meetings. Come see what really happens. Come sit down. Be a part of this city. It is your town. It's the one you pay your taxes in. And I'm here to serve you in that capacity. You noticed I've posted my phone number freely everywhere. I'm not afraid of phone calls. I'm not afraid of your questions. I may not have every answer that you want to hear. And the council may not have every answer that you want to hear. But we can at least listen to you. We can take it in and look at it. And we can look at your ideas as well. You may have better ideas than we have for some things. You may have the answer and the solution as an active part of this community. We need this community to stay alive. We need it to move forward. Another thing I believe we need to have here is we need to have public service excellence. I don't know how you feel about it, but I know many of you have complained. I know some of you have even picked up the phone and called the Kearney Police Department and reported officers at night driving around with no lights. The same officers that are out here and they're writing you a ticket for not dimming your headlights at 500 feet or for running around with a parking light out or a tail light out or no license plate light. They're pulling you over, yet they go driving around right after they've stopped you with no lights on at all, driving street to street, running stop signs, not stopping, broad daylight, driving through stop signs like they're not here, and yet you run and make a California stop and you get pulled over. I don't believe that's the type of law enforcement we need. I believe we need to strengthen our law enforcement up. We need to take and hire people that are creditable. We need to take in the council itself and the mayor need to have a larger role in the hiring of it. I believe the council should see the jacket of every officer before they're hired. And I believe we should take and set a code of conduct for our public service officers to where they follow the laws that they inflict on the people. If they're not going to enforce a law on the people, that they don't follow themselves. I don't believe a gun and a badge gives them a right to break the very laws that they claim to uphold. I understand an officer on a call has a right to go through a stop sign, everything. There's lights, sirens, provisions on the cars for that. But for just daily patrol, running stop signs just because they can, and then when dispatch is called and the response is, well, what's the problem with that? Going around and writing parking violations for cars parked the wrong way on the street, or cars telling people to move cars because the tire's up on the sidewalk and that. I understand these are city codes, but the very same officer an hour later is parked with his 2 tires on a sidewalk and 2 tires in a citizen's front yard so he can radar Motel Hill. These type things should not be tolerated, and I don't believe as citizens and taxpayers who are paying their wages that we have to sit back and be quiet and watch it happen. I believe we need to move forward with it, set a code of public service excellence, set a code of conduct and standards. When an officer's in violation of these things, have a reprimand system, have something there that makes a check and balance that eventually results in their termination if they don't want to live by the rules and the laws and the codes of our town. I believe we need more training in those areas. We need better training for them when they're handling traffic stops and that. More courteous officers. There's so many things there. There's people in town right now. You guys have called me. Some of you will hear this DVD and you say, yeah, I talked to you about this. I talked to you on the telephone, or I caught you on the street and talked to you about this instance. And there's more than one of these instances where they're now afraid to even call the police department for service. Because when they call the police department, they've been treated as the bad guy. They've been treated like the villain when it was their whole place that was broke into. When it was their building that was being occupied illegally by someone else. And yet they were made out to be like they were the bad guy, the property owner was, right in the middle of the street. Officers using profanity in the middle of the street at other residents nearby. We've had some instances, we've had some issues, and it's not all bad. Don't get me wrong. But we need to set a standard. We need a standard for our officers that are higher. Another thing we've had is we've been using some Brady listed officers. And you say Brady list, what's a Brady list? The Brady list is a list compiled by the county attorney and different departmental agencies and government agencies of law enforcement officers who are known to lie on documents, falsify records, lie in court. Their testimony is less than credible. And when we hire one of these officers or even use them on a part-time basis, I feel it's wrong. It's an open door for a lawsuit for the town of Kearney. It's an open door to lose a case just because of the officer's name being on a document. I believe there's no reason ever that we should have to have any Brady listed officers working here. And I believe it's a right of the council to know which Brady list officers were here. I know a few, I could give you names. But right now I don't need to do that. Right now I need your support to say, we don't want Brady list officers. We want officers with integrity. We want an officer that when he fills out a report, we can trust that it's good. That when we get him at a traffic stop, he's not going to lie and try to set us up because he's an officer without integrity. We need to set the bar a little bit higher than where we've been. We've had problems with it. In our system, we normally hire a police chief, and then the police chief gets to hire his officers in that. And in days past and stuff, at different times, the council's got to meet these officers or had them introduced. But I believe before they're ever introduced, the council should have a bigger part in seeing their jacket and the approval process. That no chief should be allowed to just hire his own officers. And the other thing of it is, we have officers right now that probably have never even met some of our council members. They maybe now with Sergeant Blue in here, that might have changed a little bit. But in our previous deal, we've changed so many officers that we have council members that can't even point them out. It leaves us in a compromised public safety place. In my feeling of it is this. Anybody could come. We've changed officers so many times in the past few years. We've had so many reserves, volunteers, and stuff. Anybody could put on a uniform, hop in a car, and come pull you over, and you wouldn't know if they're a Kearney police officer or not. As a mayor, I believe that the council should come together and require in this code of conduct that all officers be photographed, put in the newspaper so that everyone in town can identify that officer and identify them as a law officer of our city. Even if they're working here part-time as a reservist, we need to have a list of them that are qualified to do it and put their photos in the newspaper so that when you see this officer on duty or you encounter them at a traffic stop, you know they're a legal officer. You know they're somebody that Kearney has approved and put in that position. I also believe that your complaints against an officer need to be weighed in heavily. They need to be looked at because officer conduct does need to always be front and center. Remember, our officers are public servants. They're here to service you, just like I'm here offering to serve you. Your council, you elected them to serve you. They put themselves in that position. They voluntarily signed the paper and asked you to allow them in. And I'm asking you to allow us a chance to shape this council, mold it a little different, increase our influence. Instead of being just an approval system for a manager, we want to be a council that can come alongside the manager. Stand beside, bring new ideas to the table together, work out with committees, whatever we have to do to research the things, to put things together so that we can move forward with it. Our city employees, we have a lot of city employees that work for us that are good workers. That we see them out there working every day and that, but they need more training. We need training because we've got issues. We've got our little water treatment plants, we've got our sewer plant and all these things, and we use a lot of contractors down there when we should be able to do some more of this in-house. With proper training, I believe we already have the manpower to do it. The money that's saved there might even be able to be moved around later to help pay our city workers better. You know, these guys have families to support, and they're here to serve you, rain or shine. When things break down, they're called out in the night or whatever. These people rise up to the occasion. They're not the best paid. We need to look at this. We need to move forward on that. We need to get them some training and take on more in-house work. Another thing we need to look at is our ambulance and our fire funds and how we use our restricted funds. In the past, it was brought out in a public hearing where I was representing the businesses and the homeowners here against a property tax increase and some other things. It was brought out in there that we had ambulance funds, and that to a fairly large sum that had been taken from the ambulance area and moved into a general fund, and it really wasn't appropriate, but it was used there in that. I don't know if these funds have been repaid or not. I need to look into it. We get in there, I promise we'll get in there and we'll try to keep these restricted funds where they belong so our ambulance stays solvent, so it doesn't need all this assistance. There's money there that if it would have stayed there, I believe our ambulance and that would be in better shape, and our fire funds. All the use of restricted funds needs looked at. And understand me, the town is on better software now than we used to be. It forces greater financial accountability. It does take away some of the flexibility to improperly move funds. And they weren't, I don't believe they were maliciously moved, but they were moved. And we need to find those funds, recoup that, pay those funds back. I don't know what all's there yet. I've not been given full access to those things. But if I get in there, I'll have access to it. If you put me in there, I'll look at these things. My goal is to take, I'm not a big spender. I'm better at saving money than I am spending money. But I believe there's a lot of holes and leaks that if we plug them up, we can take the money and better spend it towards our children, towards our town, towards developing things here. When it comes to the topics of grants and grant issues, you know, I'd like to go back and review some of the grants, because we have grants and we have things that were semi-complete or completed, but there's no project sustainability with them. There's no maintenance plan. We get a grant, we build something, it looks great, it lasts 5 years, it lasts 10 years, vandals attack things and that. Don't get me wrong, vandalism is a problem, but I don't believe we should take the things we bought with grants and just lock them up and lock up the bathrooms where nobody can use them. There's other ways to fix the vandalism and stop it. But again, if we could stop some of the vandalism and the damage, even when we do that, after 5-10 years, this grant project is falling apart because there's been no money set aside to maintain it. I believe in the future, any grant we look at, anything we look at for a grant, we need to set up a project sustainability maintenance plan for it to sustain the longevity of it. So 10 years from now, it looks like it did the day we got it, when it was done. That it's in good shape, so that we're not taking our future grant money and getting a grant to redo the same thing we've already done, to pay for what we've already paid for once before, just to have the same thing we had. Instead, we can take and keep what we have, move forward, and use those grant funds wise and get more things for Kearney. Do more improvements and projects by keeping them from falling apart. You say, falling apart? Go up to the Ramadas up there on the trail. The roofs are tore up and that. Yeah, vandals have hit some of it, but it hasn't been repaired. There's no money. Look at the big windows. They're broke out. There's things here that have been nice grant things, but then they fall to the ground. We've got to set up something that makes sustainability, even if it's a slight fund, a fund that is set up specifically earmarked for the preservation and the further protection and just to take care of the wear and tear of the grants, the things we get. Because grants are getting tighter. There's less and less things out there as the economy tightens up. We're forced to highway user funds, different revenues are down some. There's different things where we have to compete harder to get. Getting money for roads and streets is harder. You know, we're being challenged on every aspect. And if we don't take care of what we have, we're going to see less and less around here. as we've watched things deteriorate some in the past few years. This is why I'm sitting in this position, trying to offer my services, my help. Believe me, I don't have all the answers. I don't know how to fix everything. But together as a team, I believe if we put our heads together, work hard, and work hard for you, listen to ideas from you guys, the citizens of this town, the ones at the town, the backbone, really, you're the life system of this place. If we can listen to you and put these things together and work with it, I believe we can improve Kearney and bring back Kearney. We don't need Kearney to move into a different age with homeowners associations and trying to make everybody's house look alike and all these things. We're here in Kearney because we chose to live here. And a lot of people are here to retire here because they love it here. But we don't need to drive our retirees off by running them out and pricing them out of existence. Something else we need to look into, and that I promised I would look into as a mayor, is our contractors. The accountability of them. The bidding process. In the past, we take in bids and then the first thing that happens is we approve a bid, it gets done, everything's done, and then somehow between the engineering and the bidding process and the day the contract begins or whatever, suddenly before it's finished there's a $10,000 change order, a $13,000 change order or whatever, and sometimes they just say, oh, the cost of the parts went up. We need to set up a firm bidding plan that when a contractor bids, they bid it, they bid the equipment, the date and the prices are fixed. We award that bid within the time frame that it's good, and from the time the award is issued, the contractor needs to go out right then and procure the materials. That we will refuse to pay for a change order because the material cost went up, because when the contractor got his bid, he did not procure the materials to do the job. That's a lame excuse for a change order. I don't like change orders. As a contractor myself, you don't see me writing change orders. I did write one to the city on a job I did for them, but it lowered the cost because we was able to save some money beyond where that went. It wasn't some big increase. But we do need to see a better accountability system in our bids. That has improved some since we started looking into this before, and I've been working with some of our councilmen, and they've done wonders in trying to get some of this fixed. But we need to take and go back and look at our engineering firm in that. Most of the engineering that's been coming out of one firm, I'm not going to name them in the DVD. If you want their names, I can give that to you, and the names of the people involved. But most of the things they engineer, almost everything that's been engineered in the end comes out with big change orders, multiple change orders, one or two. We've got to look into this and figure out whether we're using the right engineers. We need to begin to limit the use of contractors that are doing the work that we could do in-house. Some of these repairs can be done in-house with proper training of our workforce. If we get these guys the training and the safety gear they need to do some of these jobs, we have the manpower to do it. If not, maybe we can hire a little more manpower. It's cheaper than just paying contractors top price all the time and not having it as an investment back in our workforce or in our city. When we pay the wages out in our city, that money comes back in our town. Our employees go spend in our local businesses. They leave part of that paycheck right here in this town. But when we pay that out to an out-of-town contractor, the whole volume of it leaves. It goes to another city. That money's deposited and spent somewhere else. It's something we need to do. We need to do a performance evaluation of our past contractors. Some of them we've used repeatedly, others maybe once or twice. We need to go back and look at them contracts, review it, and review the performance on it. Look at how they did. Why was there change orders? What was the change orders? Some change orders are vague and yet have been approved. We need to know what we are getting for our money. Bottom line, what are we getting for our money? It's your money. It's not my money. It's not the town of Kearney's money. It's your money. You're the citizens of this town. It's your money, and we're the people you choose to put in charge of it, the council and your local government. So you guys need to say, we need to be able to be accountable to you and show you what you're really getting for your money. And the change orders and things, we've paid for things that I don't know that are right. We need to review, and I can't go into them because I don't have the documentation. But I promise I'll devote time to sit down, go back and review these things and look and see if we paid for things unnecessarily or if some of it can be recouped. Another thing we've got, our businesses. We look at our local businesses and we say they're a gold mine. They are the backbone. They're the tax base. Our sales tax revenues and things, they help this city. Without them, we'd have a hard time keeping the lights on for things. We'd have a hard time doing stuff. But you got to understand, one of the things that it's a cause and effect. It's a push and a pull type situation. If we continue to tax our businesses higher, continue to say, hey, we could use a little more sales tax, we could use a little more property tax, and the property tax when it comes to you on your house isn't very much. On a business owner, that property tax jumps. That means the prices go up when you walk in the store. It means the businessman has that much more of a hurdle to overcome. The other thing it does, it takes away the incentive for a new business to open up. It makes it harder on a new business start. It's cause and effect. We need to find incentives and work for ways to bring in new business, to give new business a reason to even come to Kearney. If I asked you this question, why would you want to put your business in Kearney? Why would you want to start a business here? If I tell you we're going to charge you an extra business license, that's a discredit. If I tell you we're going to have higher taxes than the other guy, that probably will discourage you. There's a lot of things that will discourage you from doing it, whereas if we had real incentives, the state's talking about trying to set up business incentives. We as a town need it. We need to find some businesses, small manufacturing, something that brings money from other towns to Kearney and leaves that money in Kearney. Not out-of-state retailers and not big retailers that don't live here and that. We need things that pay more than just wages that come back to our city. We need things that where the business invests in our city, where it puts stuff in here. We get these big out-of-state ones, they come in here and the profits all leave the area. A handful of wages stay here, the sales tax revenue stays here, but the rest of the profits leave. If we have small manufacturing of some kind, if something's made in Kearney or sold from Kearney that goes out of here to another region, another area, that money comes back to Kearney and it helps build us up in taxes and in spendable revenue. The more spendable revenue our citizens have, the more you're apt to spend here. The more that the costs are contained for the owners of the business, the more the utilities are contained, other things, the more these things are done, the better the chance is that our local business will survive rather than being a closed business like ones I named that I worked for in the past. They're just gone. We've lost a lot of businesses over the years. I'm not going to name them in this video. It would take too long. But we've got, the other thing we've got out here is our lake. Our lake is something that wasn't broke when it was built. Our lake became broke. Our lake in its old location used to support fish. Our lake in its new location has supported fish. This lake has been a topic a lot of times. I'm not going to tell you I have a solid answer for it. I've been researching ways to treat the water, been researching ways on the golden algae bloom. And yeah, golden algae kills fish, and the golden algae bloom in this lake is one of the problems that's there. And I know you've been told this if you've ever asked at City Hall, golden algae bloom, but what they don't tell you is the aeration system broke. A new pump was set in beside a building and never even connected. The pipes are still disconnected, and that has nothing to do with current management. So don't go railing on your current management. Mr. ID's not here anymore in that, but he did not hook these things back up. So without aeration, golden algae was definitely going to become a problem. We have water issues of where we can send water, what we can do with it to keep the salinity down. There's a lot of complications with this lake, and there's very little funding at this point. Some of the grant funds that used to be allowed for parks and that have been restricted now to where we can't use them for that. They're tightening up on grants. But there's also some other ways. I'm not going to share them on this video because I'm not going to explain to the current leadership exactly how to go about possibly finding some of the funding for the lake. I'll do that if you put me in. I can't promise you I can get the lake full of fish, but I will guarantee I will work on it because personally I like the lake and I like the fish there. My daughter Jennifer caught her first fish there when she was little, down at the other lake. And it's sad that we have a lake that's nothing more than a walking pond. It's nice to walk around, it's nice to have water back in it, but water back in it isn't a fix. We've got other issues there. I'm telling you, I would like to tell you this. Your early ballots are out. I'm asking you guys to allow me a chance to serve you, to try to put my years of maintenance expertise and stuff to use. I'm highly skilled in maintenance in a lot of areas. I've got an extensive maintenance background, and I believe I could help our city with a lot of issues on maintenance where we pay outside contractors and things by getting proper training for employees, moving them forward. Any money we can free up there can go into park, different places. We have issues, swimming pool issues, that we need to keep good relations with other places. We've got challenges that are just straight ahead of us. And I'm willing to take on the challenges head on. I can't promise you I have every answer. I would be a fool to tell you that. But I would tell you this much. I would like the chance to serve you. And after 2 years of serving you, if you don't feel I'm satisfactory, that I've done anything for you, I would ask you and I would encourage you to go to your ballot box then and vote me out. Thank you for your time and consideration in this upcoming election.